I'm EZRAH. Welcome to Manila Times. Today we'll be talking about Philippines' top export, that is manpower. From migration trends, gender switches, and returning OFWs, is the government and recruitment agencies doing anything to protect its overseas workforce? What are the prospects of overseas Filipino workers? And what is the current situation of the labor market in the Middle East? So we're going to talk about all that. Joining us now is manpower agency LBS Recruitment Solutions Corporation's president and owner, Mr. Lito Soriano. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Manila Times. Yes, sir, Lito. So I understand you've been in business. LBS Recruitment Solutions Corporation has been in the business of OFWs for the past 22 years. So how did you get into this business and how many OFWs have you deployed so far?
Actually, I've been in this business since 1984 when I was an OFW in Saudi Arabia. That's when I started my career as a talent acquisition specialist, or the other way around, they call it recruiter. So in my company, LBS Recruitment Solutions Corporation, that we opened or have licensed in 2001, we have so far deployed close to 20,000 professionals, highly skilled, and mostly in engineering field and in hospitals, and also in offshore oil platform.
Sir, I have to bring this up. A little over 2 months ago, Julibira Nara, an OFW and a domestic worker who was abused and killed, made the headlines in the news. Tell us, what is the current situation of the labor market in the Middle East for Filipinos who are looking to work abroad?
It's the demand for Filipino workers in the Middle East, especially in the Gulf countries, remain high. But we have to reckon with the new trend over the past 15 to 20 years, and that is there are more household service workers or working at home that are needed in the Middle East compared to the number of skilled and professionals that are being recruited now. And this could be seen in the data that POA release every year, that has been released every year, and also by the Philippine Statistical Authority. So that's a change compared to the time that I was in Saudi in 1980. During our time, you hardly see a woman in the plane. Mostly are unskilled, skilled, highly skilled, and engineers that are going and returning to the Philippines for yearly vacations. So over several years, starting 1990, there's a gender switch wherein there are more female workers, mostly domestic workers, and of course nurses that are now going to the Middle East, and also in other parts of the world like Asia.
So let's talk about that, sir, migration trends and gender switches. So that's very interesting. When you were working as an OFW in the 80s, there were almost no women around working in the Middle East as an OFW. So all were men. So as a recruiter who's deployed over 20,000 OFWs, how many women would you say is going out of the country now? How many percent is that?
I think there has been the data of POE shows that the number really has overtaken, except for the mining sector of the seafarers that increased the number of men. But if we look at the land-based sector, the one going to countries not in the sea, the number of ladies is more than the men. So I assume that more than 50% now are female, and most of them are domestic workers.
And what would you say is, as of now, so you mentioned earlier, you are experienced in deploying highly skilled workers. So which countries are they going into, and which countries require high skilled workers, sir?
In our case, it's still the same. We are sending a lot of skilled workers and professionals in Saudi Arabia and some parts of the Gulf countries like in Qatar, and United Arab Emirates, and in Asia, especially in part of Australia, in Papua New Guinea, and bulk of them is in Brunei.
And I understand, sir, there has been high demand for Filipino nurses abroad.
Yes, that's true. Over the past 40 years, if you look at the numbers released by POEA, almost 80% of our nurses go to Saudi Arabia, and the rest go to the different countries in the world. But this time, after the pandemic, the number of nurses being required by Eastern, Western, and as well as the North, especially USA, has increased. But still, the number in Saudi alone outnumbers the demand, because Saudi Arabia has been recruiting an average of about 14,000 to 17,000 nurses a year before the pandemic, while the rest of the world is probably about 4 to 5,000. So Saudi is our biggest destination for our healthcare workers, because it's very easy for them to go to Saudi. In fact, the visa release for Saudi is faster. No, you filed in the morning, in the afternoon you get the visa. Compared to other countries, it will take so many weeks or even months.
Sir, as you've mentioned, there have been higher demand for women, and of all the other countries in the world needing Filipino labor, it's Saudi or the Middle East has been there's such demand in the Middle East. So I can't help but notice. So these Saudi Arabia is one of the Middle Eastern countries, but then they are not famous for being good employers, as we've witnessed in the news. There have been a lot of abuses for Filipino domestic, especially women Filipinas, as domestic helpers. So that recently the Department of
Actually,
Yes, sir, had just endorsed the responsibility of giving ATN or assistance to nationals to the Department of Migrant Workers. So migrant workers now have its own department only recently. So do you think this would help more women OFWs?
I will answer the first issue. There is a great misperception about Saudi Arabia. I just cite some numbers. When I was in Saudi in 1980 to 1986, we numbers probably close to 1 million Filipinos. Until today, there are close to 1 million Filipinos in Saudi Arabia. If it is true, as captured or discussed in media, that Saudi Arabia is not a good place to work. You cannot force these Filipinos to stay there. Some of them working in Saudi more than 20, 30 years. So it's not correct that I've been there myself. It's the best place to earn money. And there is a large misconception. Yes, we are having problem with the household service workers, because there's a new, different story. And working at home is a different story in the Middle East. That's the reason why there should be more care in the selection and matching what is really needed by the families and the domestic workers that are coming out from our place. The problem is the primary source of our domestic workers are coming from provinces, and the training program and assistance and skills upscaling for these domestic workers before they are deployed is not healthy or incorrect or not enough. That's the reason why the rise of supposed to be maltreatment. Now, we're going back to some intervention, and one of those intervention is the law that create the migrant workers Department of Migrant Workers. This is a statement by itself, as promised by then President Duterte. It shows that there were failures in pursuing or enhancing the welfare of our workers on site. So that's the need for a dedicated agency to attend to them. One of the intervention tools that are included in the creation of the department is the transfer of handling criminal-related or non-labor-related problems to the Department of Migrant Workers. This is a very important issue because if you look at the governing law, the international governing law on diplomacy, and I'm referring to the Vienna Convention, it's only the ambassadors and the consular office that are recognized in non-labor offices. I'm referring to courts, I'm referring to police stations, and other offices. The normal course, once the case is related to non-labor dispute, is that the embassy will have to communicate this problem to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the host government, and the host government Ministry of Foreign Affairs will communicate the issue of concern to the appropriate ministry, and that is the Ministry of Interior or the Ministry of Local Government or the police and so on and so forth. So the issue that will have to be resolved as fast as possible is the acceptance of the host government for the Department of Migrant Workers welfare officer that will be working to replace the office that were under the embassy that handles non-labor related disputes.
I see. So you're for a
So the
department.
Vienna Convention has to look into.
Yes, sir. Continue.
What I'm trying to explain is that although I believe it's being addressed, the provision of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations should be looked into very closely, so such that we will not push so much expectations until after the host government has accepted our welfare officer to be able to entertain or to be able to work into police offices or criminal court. The expectation might be that so high, and we know very well that only the embassy, the consular office, and the ambassador can handle it.
Sir, let's talk about brain drain. So with the demand of high-skilled workers or even minimal skilled workers here in the Philippines, a lot of Filipinos are going out of the country in pursuit of better opportunities for their family. But in some cases, in a lot of cases, there are also OFWs who are returning in the country. So to which the Department of Labor has Balik Pinas, Balik Hanap Buhay program for those OFWs who spent most of their adult life overseas, now that they've saved up enough or nakaipon na. So they're returning here in the Philippines.
The issue of brain drain should be taken out of already in our mindset, especially for our policymaker. Why? In 2024, the Overseas Employment Program, or the OFW phenomena that we are talking now, is 50-year-old. What does it mean? It means that we have probably close to 7 to 15 million Filipinos that we deployed in the past that are already back or coming back because they are aging. What does it mean? It means a lot of brain gain, a lot of skill sets that they were able to acquire overseas, that the national economy or our local industry and our local government can take advantage of. But we are not doing that. We are not recognizing that. What we keep to put always in our mind is the brain drain. And what kind of workers that we are sending now? We just said that majority of our deployment now are unskilled. These are the domestic workers. Why not we concentrate on the people coming back? Because they have gained so much experience. This is the wealth that we were able to generate aside from remittances that probably close to $500 billion over the past 30 years. The other dollar billion worth of skills we should take advantage in our economic recovery initiatives. but hardly this is noticed by local government. They don't even know how many OFWs in your localities. They don't even know. They don't have mapping what kind of skills this OFW was able to bring back to the countryside or even to the urbanized area of our country. So that's the sad part that we OFW like myself is really feel bad. They don't know us. In
I
fact,
like
there's no pinpointed deliberate policy to help us.
I like what you said there, sir. So we've moved on from brain drain, and now we're in this phenomenon which you called brain gain. We're in those OFWs who have worked at over a decades in overseas is now coming back with a very special skill set. I agree with that, sir. I've seen a lot of OFWs who came back here who are now business owners like yourself, sir. You own your own recruitment agencies, and a lot of them have their own businesses which they own and which they run themselves. But what else can the government do to help those other returning OFWs to gain employment here so that we can harness those very special skill sets from abroad?
There are two things. The migration flow always been from the countryside going to the urbanized side and then going overseas. Now they're coming home. The first policy issue or the narratives that our government should be keep talking is to how to bring these people back in the countryside and help in development. They should help, the national government should help the local government able to identify and track down these skill sets, the lifelong learning that these OFWs were able to acquire overseas that could probably help in your development initiatives in your localities or in the national level, in the case of NEDA. We are very weak on that issue. And that's the reason why we, among us OFWs, some are one of the best engineers in the world. We build the most complicated and sophisticated oil and gas refineries worldwide, more highly modern bridges and structures. Yet we are not being tapped correctly here in our country. We are not even qualified to teach in the schools because they want us to have degrees. They want us to have masteral in order to be a mentor. So we have to create a mentoring program that probably we can mentor our own fellow Filipinos that are formerly overseas and including those that are here. They should find a way to stop those talents that we acquired overseas.
Sir, as a recruiter, you have access to these people, so you have the list which of the returning OFWs who has acquired very special set of skills from working abroad. So the government would need to coordinate the recruiters such as yourself to get these lists. And I like what you said about rural development, sir. So most of these OFWs don't live in the city; they were living in the provinces, which is why they had to go outside of the country to search for better opportunities, especially because rural areas are underdeveloped or developing. So you said earlier, I like what you said earlier, that these highly skilled former OFWs, they should be used, or they should be one of the propellers for the development of their areas or their provinces.
Yes, there should be scanning. We know very well that every local government has their short-term, long-term development initiative as enunciated or guided by the National Economic Development Authority. We have also the regional offices that track down short-term, long-term, medium-term development programs or that will happen in the countryside. Can we channel this information to this return OFW and those that are still overseas? Can our government tells us, this local government tell us, this is what's happening in your own municipality. We are going to invite industries in this area with these skills. Do they match the skills that you are gaining where you are working now? Something like that. We should have an A to Z of migration concept, meaning we should know where our OFW are gaining skills, and we should know what skills is needed in those development area. If we have development centers that we are going to promote, so that we can channel this OFW that are returning, and let us know what your skills. I'll give you an example. It's now a problem about healthcare right here in the Philippines, because they say we deploy a lot of nurses. You can imagine these highly skilled nurses that are now retiring. Maybe, I agree, they are maybe more than 50-year-old, but they have acquired a lot of talent and skills overseas. Can we not come up with a reintegration program wherein when they arrive in the Philippines, we offer them 1 to 2 years contract to the top government and private hospitals for them to work before they retire, before they go to their provinces or while they are in their provinces? Well, what happens is that when these nurses and engineers retire, they just go back to their families. They become yaya to your apos, or they are even caring for nag-aalaga ng kambing, nag-aalaga ng baka, or baboy. And these are highly talented engineers or highly talented accountants or industrialists, or factory workers. So that's the sad part of our migration. We don't know what to do. The reason being, we never had an exit strategy on our overseas employment program.
I agree with
And
that.
that's what I'm trying to.
Oh, so we have to fully integrate the careers over overseas Filipino workers. So starting from here, when they're just applying for a job abroad with your help as a recruiter, and then they spend years and years, even decades abroad, acquiring skills from very developed countries, from first world countries, and then there should be a program when they return for the Philippines or the Philippine government to harness those skills which they have acquired and bring it back to the country. So these OFWs really are our heroes, no? So they're giving back via remittances while they're working abroad, and when they come back here, so they could still give more
Talent.
to the country. Mhm.
Yes, more talent and skills, management skills, and the ability to work with the international brand of management. How can you? My God, these are immeasurable wealth of talent, but we are not trying to do something to harness or harvest this kind of benefits. What we see are the problems. What we are not trying to see the benefits of overseas migration aside from remittances. It's not the end of the world when an engineer comes home. The sad part of it is that there was an intervention, and the intervention was wrong. The intervention was when our economic structure changed from industrialization and agri into highly service sector, and then a lot of subdivisions by rent-seeking companies create in the urbanized area, and they invited these OFWs to reside in this subdivision in the urbanized area, depriving them of developing where they came from. This is what is wrong here in the Philippines. But anyway, knowing it is better than not knowing it or not trying to find a narrative so that we can mentor correctly these OFWs. When the OFWs arrive here, they don't know what to do. And in my case, I planned it. When I leave the Philippines, I decided not to stay there long. In fact, I stayed there about almost 6 years. And after coming back, I venture into business. I don't have money. I use others' people's money and become industrial partner. Now I have my own recruitment company. I also own 3 family in IT companies. So, and I'm not even a college graduate. I'm a high school graduate. So you can see what I learned in Saudi Arabia. I went there to earn, and in my pocket was a big L, and that is learn. When I attached the big L in my pocket, when whatever I earned in the Philippines, in Saudi Arabia when I was there, I was able to learn so much from the very talented co-workers that are Americans, that are British, that are some are Swiss engineers and French engineers or Korean engineers, and some are even Bangladesh and Pakistanis. So the big L in overseas migration, we are missing it. We are not asking it. We are not trying to find it. What does this or what do these OFWs learn while they were earning millions of dollars that they remit to our country? We are failing in that area.
So that's a very inspiring story, what you just shared, you know. Thank you for sharing your story. So what do you think, like you, sir, what you said earlier, you worked there for a couple of years and then you went back in the Philippines and got into that entrepreneurial mindset. Now, the Department of Labor has a few programs to encourage that entrepreneurial mindset for returning OFWs. But what do you think should be done, and what do you think should encourage those returning OFWs to use their skills in developing their own provinces or venturing into business like what you did?
Mentoring and matching. But we must have a very clear profile. We should help the worker, these returning workers, able to understand the profile or the skill sets that they have so far gained when they were overseas. I have to admit, we OFWs have that kind of weakness because we came from, most of us came from the provinces. We don't have that kind of deep critical thinking with respect to how we are going to assimilate in our country. But we were so skilled when we are in overseas because we have good managers with us there. So what I'm trying to say is that our government and our policymakers should deeper in their pockets or ask us and let us discuss on how best we can harness these talents and identifying the growth areas in our localities so that we can invest our money in the correct way, not in tricycles, not in jeepneys, but in proper investment initiatives that the local government might know that they need, that the government knows that there's future. We don't even know that. So that's what is lacking. There's a big gap in that area. So that's where I'm hopefully there's a refocus on our way of looking at our returning OFWs and those who are still overseas. Because a lot of them there are aging already. Very soon they're coming home. Not because they don't want to work anymore, but because they're aging.
So we're talking about migrant workers, you know, because some of these workers actually go abroad, work there, and stay there, and get their families to abroad already for a better life. So we're talking about these OFW. So lastly, sir, what is your wish from the government to encourage this entrepreneurial mindset or to harness the talents of returning OFWs in a phenomenon called brain gain? And what is your message to those Filipinos who wants to work abroad?
My message to our government is really engagement. A more honest and deliberate engagement with the returned OFWs and for them to know who we really are, what are the skills that we were able to gain, and what are the needs of our countryside, what is the needs of our country, and then mentor us to be more effective contributor to these initiatives, both of the national and the local government, and especially also in the regions. But first, they should inspire by telling those opportunities, and there should be a nationwide mentoring program that OWA should consider, should promote, because OWA is now more concentrated on current welfare problem of those workers overseas. There should be a continuing initiative on the part of OWA to look into what they can do after the workers come home, because they were your members. Some of them are your members for 20 or 30 years. So there's a lot of mindset that has to be changed, and the best way to find the right model is consultation. Engage the OFWs who are still overseas, and engage the OFWs who are here. Let us converse. The conversation is lacking.
Thank you so much for those insights, LBS Recruitment Solutions Corporation's president and owner, Mr. Lito Soriano. Thank you so much, sir.